Hi everyone, welcome to S4 Science. Today's our topic is eukaryotic cell structure and their function. Eukaryotes. First we have to discuss about the eukaryotes. As you all know, we have discussed about the prokaryotes before. Prokaryotes means they are having primitive nucleus. Then what about eukaryotes? Eukaryotes having the true, U means true. They have a true nucleus in them, right? So there are some structures, specialty for eukaryotic cells are there. What are they? They have a well-defined nucleus. That means the nucleus, the chromosome, the genetic material is included inside a nucleus which is having nuclear membrane. Every structure is well defined, right? And they contain so many membrane bound structures are there. These membrane bound structures actually, what is the membrane is actually helping them for the correct compartmentalization, right, from the cytoplasm. Whatever things are there, so there will be different compartments you can see there, right? And these eukaryotic cells have complex locomotory or even cytoskeleton bodies are there. Locomotory such as flagella, cilia and everything is present. Here also you can see that. And they have cytoskeleton structures are there. Some special protein made up of cytoskeleton structures are also present. So these all are the about the eukaryotic cell. That means they have a well-defined nucleus and membrane-bound structure is there. That's the simplest form we can say that a eukaryotic cell is there. Now we are going to discuss about different structures of that eukaryotic cell. What are the cell organelle and their function? There are so many. First we will have an overview of that. Then we will go in detail of each and every one. Here you can see that there will be cell membranes are there, right? Cell wall is present, cell membrane or plasma membrane, cell wall, right, which is a common thing, right, for the plants and fungi. In animals, this cell wall will be absent, and there is an endomembrane system. Endomembrane system is that those cell organelles which will function together. That means they will perform together. Their what will say not together. You can say that their functions are actually connected. That means related to each other. They are all included in endomembrane system. Here you can see the endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosome, vacuole. These all are interconnected. Their functions also, everything is interconnected. So that's why we take them as endomembrane system, right? And all other mitochondria, plasmid, whatever it is, they have an individual working system. They are not interconnected with this. So that's why we are not including them, right? Now there are mitochondria is there, plastids are there, ribosomes, cytoskeleton, cilia, flagella in some organisms you can see that, centrosome, centrioles, which is very important in the cell division, nucleus are present, and even microbodies are also you can see. We will discuss one by one the cell membrane, then we will go for the cell wall and everything. And here in this session, we are going to discuss about that cell membrane, cell wall and the endomembrane system. Coming to cell membrane, yes, here you are seeing the structure of the cell membrane. Here, this is the structure of the cell membrane, which is the world widely accepted structure. There are so many structures proposed by different scientists, but here is the most accepted form, right? As you know that cell membrane is semi-permeable, right? So semi-permeable, it will allow some selective molecules or selective substance to enter, go in and go out, right? So that's why we can say that they are semi-permeable or selectively permeable. Who actually, which create this permeability? There is the structure of that cell membrane. It's actually making them for that selectivity or semi-permeability, right? That means they are made up of their chemical composition. We can say that it is phospholipid bilayer, right? What do you mean by phospholipid? Phospholipid in the sense there will be lipid part will be there and the protein part will be there. They are integrated, right? So you can say that a trilaminar manner they are arranged, or quasi-fluid or a semi-fluid. That means there will be protein lipid bilayer are arranged in a special manner that actually making them semi-permeable or that actually giving them their special characters, right? So here you can see that the chemical studies which is actually composed that studied in human RBC first, and that prove that the cell membrane is actually made up of lipid bilayer, protein and carbohydrate. Here, go through the picture. You can see here these heads. You can see that these hydrophobic heads are there, and there will be hydrophilic heads are there, and hydrophobic tails are present here. You can see that like a hydrocarbon structure. Last year we have learned about the soap molecule, right? So they will have a hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail is there. The same way here you can see that there will be a hydrophilic head and hydrophobic tail is present, right? So here this is the uh, phospholipid bilayer we are telling. Here these are the lipids we can see here, one here in this side and the other one here. So there is a lipid bilayer is there. In between you can see the proteins are there. Proteins, actually there are two types of proteins, the integral proteins and peripheral proteins there. Integral protein means which is actually partially or fully immersed in the phospholipid layer, right? Then it is called integral protein, such as this one. You can see that it is fully immersed, right? And there are some partially immersed also. You can see it's partially immersed. They are called integral proteins. And there are some peripheral protein which is actually outside the membrane. You can see that which is attached to this but outside this. So that's also you can see here. And along with this, you can see that there are some other proteins which is also long channel tube-like structures. You can see some cholesterol molecules also. You can see carbohydrate or sugars are attached to this, right? It can be glycolipid and glycoprotein. Glycoprotein means that protein, glyco, that not glycogen or this what we say, sugar molecule is attached to the protein, then it is called a glycoprotein. Here this one, if it is attached to the lipid, right? So here it is the glycoprotein. If it is attached to the lipid, this one, you can see that this one, they are glycolipids, right? I hope you have some idea of this, right? So we already discussed lipids, mainly phosphoglycerides, and you can see that what they are phosphoglyceride. They have outer polar head is there and inner hydrophobic tail is there, right? So non-polar tail, that's actually saturated hydrocarbon and it is protected from the aqueous environment, right? So inside that, otherwise it will be dissolved in that. So that's why it is protected. They are hydrophobic in their nature. Here, if you are going through the ratio of the protein or lipid bilayer, that will vary in different cells, right? If you are considering human RBC, you can see that there will be 52% of protein and 40% of lipid. So this will vary in cell to cell. In some, there will be more amount of lipids and some amount of protein. That will vary according to the cell to cell, right? I already told you there are two types of proteins are there. One is the integral protein and the peripheral protein. Integral means which is partially or fully immersed in the phospholipid bilayer, then they are called integral protein. Peripheral protein, which is actually outside, attached, but it is like outside the membrane. So they are called peripheral proteins. Here you can see that the correct structure of a lipid, right? So there will be a phosphate head will be there. That's why we are telling phospholipid. Phosphate head will be there, which is polar. That means hydrophilic, which is water loving, right? And there will be a unsaturated, that is saturated, right? Non-polar hydrophobic fatty acid tail will be there. That means these are organic. It will not dissolve in water. That's why it becomes hydrophobic, right? And they are non-polar and they are fatty acid made up of, right? Fatty acids are organic molecule. We know that. And the phosphate head is actually hydrophilic, which will be turned outside, and that hydrophobic tail will be protected inside. Right. Now, what is the structure of that cell membrane? I told you there are so many models, but the most accepted model is Singer and Nicholson fluid mosaic model. The fluid mosaic model is proposed by the Singer and Nicholson. These are the two scientists you can see here, Singer and Nicholson. They proposed this model in 1972, which is the most accepted model. It has a quasi-fluid or semi-fluid nature of that phospholipid layer they proposed. The same you can see here. Here there will be a trilaminar, that means there are three layers other, or you can say the phospholipid bilayers. You can see that this is the phosphate, this is the lipid part, right? And this is the phospholipid part. You can see that this is the phospholipid bilayer. In between them you can see the proteins are there, right? So glycoprotein, which is attached to that now what you say, protein part, the sugar molecule which is attached to the protein, and glycolipid, which is the carbohydrate which is attached to the lipid. So these are the, and there will be a channel through the protein which is very easily, the other substance can easily pass, and there are some carrier proteins also that we will see next slide. Carrier proteins also, that's also helping. So here, according to their quasi-fluid or semi-fluid nature of lipids, this enable, right? So the lateral movement of the protein, right, within the overall bilayer. Lateral from outside to inside and side movement, everything. So whatever the overall bilayer, the movement, the semi-permeability is actually because of the composition of this cell membrane, right? And this ability to move within the membrane, it's actually measured as its fluidity. how much they can move, right? That's called the fluidity of that membrane. That will vary to membrane to membrane. Now you can see the functions of that. Obviously they are semi-permeable nature, selectively permeable nature. So that means they will help in the transport of molecules, right? So how this transport from either side, that means inside cell to outside and from outside to inside, how this actually happening, right? So because of the fluid nature, the plasma membrane can help in cell growth and the formation of the intercellular junctions and even secretion, endocytosis, right? Cell division, everywhere it has a main important role. You can see here there are two types of proteins present here. This is a protein channel through which the substance can easily move out and inside, right? This is the extracellular space and the intracellular space. Along with that, there is another mechanism. You can see that that's called the carrier proteins. This is a carrier protein. Here only one side opening is there. What is the specialty here? Whatever molecules, right? So that's according to the concentration gradient that will decide, will be taken by and it will be transferred, right? Carry the protein into the inside if it is needed. Then the other side will be closed. Here you can say taken, right? This is coming, taken, and it is given to the inside. So they are called carrier protein, right? The transport of molecule you will learn in the other chapter. Then you will understand more clear about that. Now the second structure of that eukaryotic cell, that is the cell wall, right? Here we are actually discussing about the cell wall. That's mainly not for animals but plants and fungi, some other organism. You can see this even bacteria, prokaryote also we have learned. But here the cell wall we are discussing, that's non-living, right? Which is fully permeable in structure, right? So you can see that development is actually happening in two stages. There will be a primary cell wall, then there will be a secondary cell wall. So it is non-living structure found outer the plasma membrane of fungi and plants, mainly fungi and plants. No animal cell have cell wall, right? Cell wall of algae, it's actually made up of some other substance chemicals. You can see here cellulose will be the galactans and mannans and minerals like calcium carbonate. These all things are actually the cell wall of fungi is made up of, which is giving the rigidity and all the color, right? All these things that now what is it? Their characters and all, that's provided by these chemicals. Mainly in plants, actually, it is consist of cellulose. Even hemicellulose, pectin and proteins also present along with that. But the main component, the major component, 90% or anything, component of the plant cell, it is cellulose, right? Now we are going to the structure of the cell wall. Here you can see that in young plants, right, there will be special cell that's called the primary cell wall. Later it will be developed into gradually, it will be the primary cell wall will be diminished and there will be what we say replaced or matures into a secondary cell wall, right? So here you can see that in young plant cell there will be primary cell wall that's actually capable of growth. Normally we told that living, it's not living, right? Cell wall is not living. Not living, then how they will grow? So there is a specialty in young plants that is actually living in nature. That's called the primary cell wall. Later, their growth will be gradually diminishes or then lessen as the cell matures, right? And the secondary cell wall is formed instead of the primary, right? So in inner side, you can see that the primary cell wall and inside that, right? Inside that inner area, you can see the secondary cell wall formation will be there. Towards the membrane, that means towards the plasma membrane side, you can see the secondary cell wall. And outside the primary cell wall will be there. Right. And there is another structure above the cell wall that's called the middle lamina. In the picture, you can see that this is the middle lamina. It's a glue-like structure. It's actually helping for the connection, right, between that, what will say, that next neighboring cell wall to that neighboring cells or any other cells to this cell wall. So actually, this middle lamella, you can see that one cell is there. This is the one cell wall, and there will be another cell wall here. In between, you can see the middle lamella, right? So this is the primary cell wall, right, which is capable of growth, right? Later, it will be. You can see that there will be secondary cell wall will be developed, and that will be inner side of that. And this is the plasma membrane, which is phospholipid structure, right? And here you can see that the cell wall, right, in the middle lamella. So these all are having some other structures also, you can say. You can see that pectin will be there, right? Some cellulose microfibers will be there. Some other structures also you can see. Here in middle lamella, which is mainly consists of calcium pectate, right? So I told you this is acting as a glue-like structure and it is helping for that neighboring cell to attach together or stick together, right? So it's not actually glue, but it acting as a glue-like structure, right? And this the cell wall and middle lamella maybe then what to say transfers, right? That travels by the what we say connected, what we divided in some area that will be channelized. We can see that traversed or even in between channelized by plasmodesmata, which is actually called that intercellular junction connections, right? So this plasmodesmata in the picture you can see that here. This is the plasmodesmata. So it's actually enabled that connect that neighboring cell cytoplasm with this because these are dead. So there must be some channels for their exchange of material and all. That's actually happening through the plasmodesmata, which is actually the channel or the connection between the neighboring cytoplasm. Clear? Right. Now, what are the functions of cell wall? Obviously, it is rigid, non-living. Then it will provide shape. Right. So it is actually protect that cell from that different mechanical damage and even from that injuries, mechanical injuries or any other invading pathogen, whatever it is. It is actually giving a protection also, right? And also it is helping for the cell-to-cell interaction. It is fully permeable. So cell-cell interaction, it's helping, right? And undesirable macromolecules are there. That also it is actually acting as a macro means very large molecules will be there. Right. So it is acting as a barrier for the undesirable macromolecules also. Now we are moving to the endomembrane system. We have already told that endomembrane system, that means they have a coordinated function. They are actually connected in their function. They are related in their function, which include ER, the endoplasmic reticulum, the Golgi complex, the Golgi bodies or Golgi apparatus, all are seen. Then the lysosomes and the vacuoles. These all are related in their function. They are coordinated in their function. These organelles are commonly called the endomembrane system. One by one we will go. First one, the endoplasmic reticulum, ER, right? So in short, we can say that endoplasmic reticulum. Endoplasmic reticulum is actually arise as a extension of the nuclear membrane. You have already learned in class 8, 9 and all. This is the between nuclear membrane, which is double layered nuclear membrane will be double membrane, right? And there will be extension coming from that, which is called the endoplasmic reticulum, right? It is a network or channel-like structure. It can extend throughout the cytoplasm till the cell wall or cell membrane, or you can say that it will be short also. It can freely float on the cytoplasm also. That's up to this endoplasmic reticulum. So here you can see that these are a network of tiny tubular structures scattered in the cytoplasm. Here actually divided into intercellular space into two compartments. That means here you can see that this is the cytoplasm inside the ER. So it's actually dividing the entire the intercellular space into two. Inside the ER, that is actually the luminal space and luminal space, and outside you can say that the extraluminal, right? That's the cytoplasmic area, right? Once again, I will tell endoplasmic reticulum, which is an extension of nuclear membrane. It can extend throughout that cytoplasm, or it can be small also, but mostly it will be extend throughout the cytoplasm. So what it is doing, it will divide the entire cytoplasm area or the intercellular space into two. What is that? Luminal, that means inside the ER, and the cytoplasm, that is that now what you say extraluminal, outside luminal, right? Or the cytoplasm area too, right? So this, if this is you are taking, this is the nucleus, nuclear membrane will be the, this is the extension, right? Which is called the ER, and here this is the cytoplasm, that's the extraluminal. Inside the ER, that is luminal, right? So according to their structure, that means whether the presence of ribosome is there or not, we can divide the entire ER into two, RER and SER. That is rough endoplasmic reticulum and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Rough endoplasmic reticulum, as the name itself, right? Rough, right? That means it carry ribosomes on their surface, right? So here you can see that RER, that's actually frequently observed in cells actively involved in the protein synthesis, right? Because the function of ribosome is protein synthesis and their secretion of that protein. So RER very much seen, mostly more amount of RER you can see the cells which is actively involved in protein synthesis, right? and you can see that there is a continuous extensive and continuous with the outer membrane of the nucleus, that we already told this is the extension of nuclear membrane, and where there will be ribosomes present, then it will be called rough endoplasmic reticulum, that is the RER. Here you can see that nucleus, the nuclear membrane, its extension, which is the inside the endocytoplasm. You can see that there will be ribosomes present, so that's why these are RER, rough endoplasmic reticulum. After that, you can see that there will be SCR, right? It can be connection, it's not separated, it can be connection itself, but there will be no ribosomes present in this. So then we will name that smooth endoplasmic reticulum or SCR, right? So here ribosomes are absent, and here you can see that this is a major site of lipid synthesis, right? And we know that the cell membrane, right, is actually phospholipid in that nature. That means proteins are there and also lipids are there. So here the proteins is made in the ER by the ribosomes, and the lipids are made in the SCR, right? So these two are lipid synthesis also there, protein synthesis also there. So these two are actually involved in the membrane biogenesis. So that cell membrane banana killing, it is actually helping. So for the cell membrane they need protein and their lipid. So this is actually provided by the RER and SCR, right? So in animal, lipid like steroid hormone, right, which is actually lipid like structures. It's actually steroid hormones, right, which is helping for the development, hormonal development and all. That's also synthesized in the SCR. There are so many other functions of SCR also. For example, in invertebrate, right? And in vertebrate liver cells, not invertebrate, vertebrate liver cells, you can see that this SCR actually helping for the detoxification of drugs and toxins, right? And that means it will remove that any poisonous substances there, right? RER, we already told you, they are helping for the protein synthesis because of the ribosome present. SCR mainly for the lipid synthesis. They both together, you can say that it is helping for the membrane biogenesis, right? And SCR, you can see that it is helping for the invertebrate liver cell. The SCR helping for the detoxification of drugs and poisons, substance and all, right? The next endomembrane system, the cell organelle we are going to learn, which is the Golgi apparatus, right? Here, this is the structure of the Golgi apparatus. Here you can see that there will be two phases for this Golgi apparatus. There is the cis phase and trans phase, right? These Golgi apparatus or the Golgi bodies or the Golgi complex, which is actually discovered by a scientist called Camillo Golgi, right? In 1898, this is actually first observed by the Camillo Golgi, right? So actually these are densely stained and reticular structures near the nucleus. It's actually kept near the nucleus itself. But if you're going for the structure, you can see that there will be a flat structure, right? Tubules will be there, disc-like cisternae will be there, and even vesicles also, that round vesicles will all be there. All together they are stacked and they are arranged in a special complex structure. So that's why we are giving the name Golgi complex, right? So here you can see that they actually consist of flat, right, disc shaped sacs, that's are called cisternae. This is the flat disc shaped sacs which is called cisternae, right? And these are all parallel in nature, they are arranged all parallel in nature. And here you can see that the cisternae uh, that are concentrically arranged, right, which is concentrically one after one another, like a, what to say, a central will be the that are concentrically arranged. It is within the convex surface that we are telling that convex and concave, right? So convex, that's actually cis, that's called the cis phase or the forming phase, from where the formation is taking place, that all the things. Then slightly it will leave to the concave surface that we are telling the mature, or it's not concave, it can say the trans phase, right? So it's concave surface, or the name is trans phase. From here this the vesicles are leaving, right? So if you are taking the structure totally, you can see that there will be cis phase for this, and you can see that there will be concave, trans phase is also there, right? Cisternae, this is actually concentrically arranged with cis, right, which is the convex, which is a forming phase, and there will be concave, which is the trans phase, which is a maturation or maturing phase, right? So the cis and trans phase are totally different, and but they are interconnected. You can see that they are connected, but they are totally different. What are the functions of Golgi body, right? So here you can see that like the same way these UR, that ER, Golgi body, all are interconnected, right? So here you can see that they secretes in the to the intercellular targets, right, or the outside the membrane, or and even they are actually packaging. Here this Golgi body is actually acting as a packing, storage, packing and dispatching unit. Storage, packing and dispatching unit. So what it is actually storing? Sorry, really sorry. Right. So there will be proteins or lipids produced by the ER, right? That will be taken into the Golgi body. Materials to be packaged as vesicles that will be stored in a round vesicle, balloon-like structure, and so the storage, packing, and dispatching that's done by the Golgi. So which is actually produced by the ER, right? Here you can see that materials to be packaged as vesicles from the ER fuse with the cis phase and move towards the trans phase. So here you can see that the cis phase, right? This is actually connected with the ER itself. So whatever things are produced by the ER that will be formed in the then packaged, right? Transferred towards the cis phase, which is the forming phase, and it will be later transferred to the move to the trans phase, right? So here the pack in between, when these moving the proteins or lipids, that their structural changes will be there. That means they will be packaged, that will be modified and packaged. At last here you can see the vesicles are there from here, and in between they are maturing also, and it will be leave from here, right? So proteins synthesized by the ribosomes on the ER are modified in the cisternae. That means that's why these stacks are there. So what the stacks, you can see that here this phase is actually attached to the ER. The ER, whether SER or RER, according to that protein and lipid, that will be connected here, and it will be give in the cis phase, which is a forming phase. It will move through the cisternae. When it is moving through, there will be modification. That means maybe sugar molecule will add to that, like it will make to glycoprotein, or some more proteins will add. It will become a polymer. So there will be some changes that will be occur, and at last it will, that means maturation will occur, and at last it will reach in the trans phase, right? So here you can see the trans phase, right? So here you can see that the trans phase will be the, from there it will be the vesicles will leave into different part of that cytoplasm, wherever there will be need of protein and lipid, right? So here protein synthesized by the ribosomes on the ER are modified in the cisternae of Golgi apparatus, and before they have released from the trans phase. So it will be released from the trans phase. That's why you can see that there are so many vesicles are leaving from here. Secretory vesicle, right? So that will be different functions will be there. So here the main function we are telling the formation of glycoprotein and glycolipid. So that's why I'm telling whether it has to add sugar into lipid, sugar into protein, so that all the things will be done by the Golgi apparatus whenever the protein will move toward the cistern. The next part, right, we are going to learn about that, learn in endomembrane system, that's actually the lysosome. It is also a membrane bound vesicular structure. That means a vesicular structure. Inside there will be a lytic enzymes are there, right? So this is actually produced from the Golgi apparatus itself, right? So membrane bound vesicular structure formed by the process of packaging in the Golgi apparatus. So lysosomes are actually made from the Golgi apparatus itself, right? And these lysosomes actually contain, right, different type of hydrolytic enzyme. Hydrolytic means, lytic means actually that now what is it, destroying, right? Destructive enzymes are the proteolytic or hydrolytic. Proteolytic means it is protein lysing, right? Here different lytic enzymes are there, right? You can see that there are lipases are the, proteases are the, carbohydrate, that means they have the capacity to lyse, right, or that what we say destroy or digest the lipid, protein and carbohydrate. So generally we will say that they are hydrolytic in nature. What are they? Lipid hydrolytic enzymes are the protein, proteolytic are the carbohydrate. That hydrolysis enzymes are also available there inside the lysosome, right? These are very much active and they are acidic in their pH. That means they are highly acidic, right? So whenever there will be any cellular disturbance or any injury or anything, if that is spreading to the next cell, chances are that what will do, this lysosome, that a membrane will be burst open and these lytic enzyme will be spread throughout the cell, and it will damage, that it will destroy the entire cell, whether it is nature is carbohydrate, sugar, protein, whatever things are there, they will digest all these things. Even nucleases are also present. That is the nucleic acid, like the digestive enzyme. So everything will be digested by this enzyme, which is highly acidic in their pH, right? And because of this, that now what to say, special capability, lysosomes are known as the suicidal bag of the cell. That means it will very much helping. It's that in the whenever there will be a spreading pathogen or spreading infection or anything is there, it's actually helping that cell, right? To what we say, making them, that now what to say, to save themselves, right? So to save themselves, that's actually the lysosomes are actually helping. So that's actually distracting themselves. That's why it is called suicidal bags, right? So they are actually making a suicide, right? To that now what to say, to that now safeguard the other cells from the infection or any other injury or even any cell damage or any cell injuries. The suicidal bags that lysosome will act, right? The last part of the enteromembrane system, that's actually the vacuoles, right? So vacuoles, you can see that in animals there will be, we can say that maybe it will be present, or if it will be present, it will be very small in number, small in size and very few in number. But in plants, and you can see that there will be large central vacuole. Most of the part of the plant is actually the vacuole itself, right? And there will be a membrane around that vacuole, which is called the tonoplast, right? So here you can see that in plants, the tonoplast facilitates the transport of ions and other materials against the concentration gradient into the vacuole. Tonoplast is the outer covering of the vacuole. There is a slide that nothing outer covering is, which is called the tonoplast, right? So it is actually helping, facilitates the transport of ions and other material against the concentration gradient. That means this, what is the function here? In plants and all, it is actually containing the waste or cell sap, or it can be storage also. It mostly waste material accumulation. That's called the cell sap accumulation is there. So that must be against the concentration gradient. So that's actually the helping that the thing, the part actually helping for that. That's actually the tonoplast, right? So here you can see that their concentration is higher inside the vacuole than the cytoplasm, because if all that salt or the waste material is accumulated inside that vacuole, the concentration will be high. Then the movement actually from high concentration to low concentration, it has to. But tonoplast is actually helping of the movement of that particle inside that vacuole against the concentration gradient, right? In amoeba, there are some other type of vacuole you can see that, such as contractile vacuole, which is actually helping for their excretion purpose. And you can see in some food vacuoles are also present in many of that protista, right? So in amoeba also you can see that the food vacuoles are there, contractile vacuoles are there, right? So which is actually engulfing the food and digesting inside the food vacuole itself, and for eliminating the waste material also. So there are different type of vacuoles are there. Contractile vacuoles also there, which is helping for their excretion and other purpose, and even food vacuoles for the digestion also there, right? In plants also, what is the function of vacuole? We have discussed that. Here we are finishing the first session of eukaryotic cell, their structure and function. Thank you.